Hi, my name is Brian Grummel. I'm with Greensmith Energy. If you notice the original speaker list, it was supposed to include my CEO, John Jung. And he emailed me a couple weeks ago. He knew that he was going to get stuck, and he asked if I could step in for him on this. And he asked if I was aware of who Fuqua was. And I said, I hope so, or who took $20,000 out of my bank account. And why did my wife move to North Carolina without me? So. Yeah, I'm very aware and I'm very happy to be here, so thank you for having me. Like I said, I am with Greensmith Energy and we do energy storage. That is what I'm here to talk about. Energy storage is really the crux of the transition from renewable into the renewable economy. We at Greensmith, we do the hardware and the software to allow that to happen. We've been around for about 10 years. We operate like a startup out of DC. We've done about 70 utility scale projects. I myself will be at about 100 megawatts of deployment in the 2+ years that I've been there, as soon as I do the next system in a couple months in the Caribbean. And two interesting things have happened to us recently. One is that we got bought by a company named Wärtsilä that you see up in the corner, which is a 184-year-old company out of Finland that does diesel and liquid natural gas generators. And the second interesting thing that happened with us is that they laid out this vision that you see here, and that same company that's been around for almost 2 decades, they actually just helped the country of Finland celebrate their 100th birthday, and they were the ones hosting the party for them. They have laid out this plan for 100% renewables because of the economy of the energy as they see it and as we see it at Greensmith with them. And in this chart that you see, we're really at the tipping point now where renewables have just become the cheapest form of new energy, and it will continue to grow and deploy. Now, the reason why they would continue to believe that will go on is what you see here, and that renewable energy sources are by far the most abundant sources of energy on the planet. All the orange dots are just what we collect in 1 year on this planet, whereas these are all the reserves in the totality of the Earth. So you can see why this is the future for all the speakers here today. For example, every 1 hour enough solar energy hits the Earth to power for an entire year. So even as we scale up, we're talking about merely adding minutes to the amount of time that we need to capture the energy. And the excellent speaker from Shell, she showed a similar graph. This is new deployments over the next 20, 30 years. And the fossil generation would still exist in a lot of developing countries. It'll bottom out very quickly because of the price of renewables just pushing it out of the market. And then the main sources of energy all across the world will then look like this once we get to about 22 terawatts of global capacity in about the year 2050 or so. And you can see the majority of the world's population lives in an area where they will get that from the sun. And if they're not going to get it from the sun, they'll get it from other renewables. But there's a catch, and that's why I'm here with energy storage. It's not so, as a lot of people have talked about, batteries are a form of energy storage. You need them to add all these things to the grid. And if you don't understand why, then I'll try to explain it with just this one slide. This is real-time data from the state of California that I took myself just a couple days ago off their website. This is from August 28th, you can see it in the corner. Every other day looks just about the same. I didn't cherry pick this. And what you can see, the top is the total demand that they're taking from the entire day over the course of the day, from midnight to midnight. And in orange at the bottom, you can see the solar energy. They're one of the best states, as you would expect, for taking in solar energy. But as you add more solar, you're not going to be adding it when it's dark outside, obviously. And you're just going to keep pulling that peak down in the middle. And you're going to start taking the total demand curve in the middle, and you're just going to add more fluctuations. And I can tell you that the utility guys hate that, because you're changing their load over the course of the day with an unstable supply. This is an aggregate over the entire state. Every single one, as you might already know, as soon as a cloud passes over, your energy on that one solar array goes near zero. And that's like adding huge loads on and off the grid very quickly. So the bigger your solar array, you're adding that more instability. So really, what we need to do is we need to do two things. We need to try to concentrate our loads to where the solar occurs, but really the more important thing is we need a form of energy storage to store that solar energy that we're collecting during the day and spread it out over the course of the day. Not just during the day, but that'll get us through one day if you could collect enough during that peak But then if you have a storm that lasts a couple days, then what do you do? If we're really on that path towards 100% renewables, how do we get there? And then, so what I think is very important for you all to understand is that the energy storage needs to operate on multiple timescales. The speaker from Schneider this morning did an excellent job. He had a chart that showed it. I don't know that he pushed on it very hard, but he showed timescales as well. So the energy storage will operate on a millisecond and second level to add stability to the grid. But then you need daily, weekly, and finally seasonal storage to fully embrace all of the renewables and displace all of the fossil fuels off the grid. And while I'm on this slide, I just want to say a quick thing about two different technologies. I'm not going to go tech heavy on you, but there's two important forms of energy storage that you should know about. One is batteries, which is by far the most predominant today. Almost all new deployments are lithium ion from either LG, Samsung, or BYD. But seasonal, if we're talking about 100% deployment of renewables, how do we best do that? And that is through a technology called power to gas, which Shell just talked about. And it's forming the same fuels that existing energy systems run on, but we do it using solar energy and either water or the air to create those fuels and then store them for the seasonality. I'm talking about storing enough energy in the course of a summer to deploy over the entire year. So either through the batteries in the short term to add reliability, and then an eventual build out, you have power to gas and other long-term storages, which, by the way, fits very nicely in Wärtsilä's main business line that they've been doing for 184 years, and Shell, and all of the existing infrastructure that we already have. If you want to get to 100% renewables quicker, use what we have and power it out of the air and out of water. And then once you have these three things, or once you have these multiple timescales of energy storage deployed, then now you're adding grid reliability in the short term, renewable integration in the long term. And then on top of all that, you need the software that we also provide and deploy in both the loads and the generation to hybridize all of those assets together. Okay, about the software. Each of these lines here is basically its own PhD thesis about how it works and how it works up and how it's used and how it's deployed. Some of you might know about some of them, but they're either falling under grid reliability, renewable integration, hybridizing all of these assets, or microgrids, which is really a form of a hybrid. So what's really important to know is that your energy storage, it's not only doing this dumbed down version of deploying new energy onto the grid so that you can keep all the loads up, but it also needs to keep it reliable and effective. And these new ways of using it that other speakers are also talking about, that of microgrids and hybridization. So that's actually what we focus on even more than the hardware. Our company has about 40 software engineers, and I'm one of about 5 main hardware guys, because really any asset that you give to us or that will come about in the future, we need the software that will operate that and both predict and deploy those assets. And I have a quick video of actually that software.
There's one thing that today's energy industry produces more than power: complexity. But it doesn't have to. Greensmith GEMS software is the platform of choice for intelligent energy asset management, liberating energy producers to build, monitor, and optimize solutions like never before. GEMS is technology neutral, matching the best hardware to your specific use case. It's smart, with automated decision-making that takes into account real-time and forecasted data. And GEMS is proven in the field, offering a 100% safety record with over 70 systems deployed around the world. GEMS primary components begin with GEMS Analyzer, which conducts equipment modeling and algorithm simulation to recommend the best equipment size and maximize ROI. GEMS Site Simulator enables Greensmith to test algorithms and equipment compatibility for rapid troubleshooting support. GEMS Power Plant Controller focuses on real-time device communication and control, and on-site monitoring. And GEMS Fleet Director collects and stores equipment data, aggregating it from multiple power plants, data analysis, forecasting, and machine learning. Joined together, these components power control that maximizes ROI and delivers value every day. providing a gateway to the solutions to future-proof energy generation operations. You can trust GEMS to create a grid that's as reliable as it is robust, to manage today's renewables better or integrate tomorrow's, to join legacy generation, renewables, and modern engines into an optimized hybrid solution, or to drive the efficiency of islanded generation to newfound levels. With powerful capabilities, harnessing limitless flexibility, and aligned industry leaders behind it, GEMS is the intelligent energy management platform that changes everything. GEMS from Greensmith, a Wärtsilä company.
Okay, so they pronounce Wärtsilä as the Finnish do, but I think you get the idea that we put a focus on the control and the prediction of both the incoming energy and the deployment to the loads. So just to summarize that, you have all these inputs that go into a site. It starts with an analysis of it, and I'm going to show 2 example sites here in a moment, but also a prediction about what the loads will be and also the incoming. You know, we need to understand what the weather is going to be so that we can accurately deploy and make sure that the battery levels are what they need to be when the storm hits and things like that. And then I work with those people to help them pick the hardware and deploy and integrate it and build it correctly so that it all works together in the hybrid that we want it to be. So like I said, we've done over 70 utility scale projects over the course of our 10 years. So here's a couple of them. We have about 20 megawatts in Pennsylvania for one of the sponsors, NextEra. They've been a great customer that really understands about grid reliability in one of the biggest energy market in the world, PJM. And we have a few more that I'll touch on a little bit more specifically. One of which is the Pomona Energy Center. When we built this, it was the biggest energy storage system in the world. It stayed that way for about 2 months until Tesla beat us down the street. And then our competitor that's about 10 miles away in Alexandria, Virginia, AES, now Fluence, built a slightly larger one about an hour south in San Diego, and now the biggest is in the world is Tesla's in Australia. We hope to dethrone them again soon. Can't talk about that though. But in terms of that functionality that your software needs to do, just this battery, and this is, I think, very important for the business audience to hear. This project was conceived up with one revenue stream, and it was paid for that way with an ROI of about 4 years and a 10-year warranty. So pretty good business deal. After we deployed it, we began to work with them better, and we got a better understanding of the CAISO energy market. And now this one energy system does 4 different functions at a time. It provides the resiliency. They were basically just getting paid just to exist in the same way that a coal plant gets paid to have hundreds of people working at a time so that they can deploy energy when the utility needs it. Here we have 0 people on site. But it's doing that, and it's also providing regulation, and it's also doing arbitrage, where it's trying to chase the energy market. If it sees that we can deploy the batteries and make $2,000 a kilowatt hour, and we have 20 megawatts, we're gonna do that. And they're gonna make a couple $100,000 that day. And by the way, that curve that I showed earlier, sometimes when the solar is really good, we get paid to charge the batteries on the same day. It's a pretty good business. So that's a challenge, I believe, for all you that the technology is there. The solar guys are there, and it's really about forming an understanding of the business around these things that, in my opinion, is lacking. You're not gonna get a lot of engineers that come into the business building and talk about how valuable we find you, but you have one right here, because we're happy to build these things, but we don't run into a lot of customers and utilities that always understand the value of these things. So even though the revenue streams exist, there's just not a lot of people trying to tap into them. And then one other quick example, there's been a lot of talk about microgrids and the whole idea of integrating the renewables. This is a project that I just came back from last week in Portugal, where we're doing a hybrid microgrid. And it's a 6 megawatt battery and a 3 megawatt hour, 6 megawatt, 3 megawatt hour battery. But you can see over the course of the day how much renewables we've generated. We went from 0% renewable integration to 60, 70%. And really the key to bringing that to 100 is just increasing the size of the battery, which they plan to do in time. So again, thank you for your time. But I just want to reiterate that we really see not only the hardware as the key to adding all the renewables that we agree is vital to our society, but also the software to integrate not only the loads, but also the power, the energy supplies, and then to integrate it all together. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Brian. Time for one question.
Thanks for the presentation. Very helpful to understand what you guys do and how your products are bifurcated.
Thank you.
I'm with Nextera Energy.
Fantastic.
And something that we look at in your case study in California, you said that you had a simple use case, a capacity payment, I imagine, and now you're seeing all these other extra revenues that you can realize once you're in the market. Mm-hmm. But how do you, I realize that you can optimize the economics of the battery in that second for what makes the most money. How do you think about the additional degradation of the batteries and the cost that you're going to have to incur because you're bringing basically more replacement into closer to today as you use the battery harder than you initially thought about?
That's a fantastic question, because there's a trade-off in how you use energy storage. The batteries are the most expensive part. They're coming down in price. If the guy from Nissan can sell me batteries at $100 a kilowatt hour, let's get together after this. We got a nice business coming. But they're expensive, so you need to protect them. That's what I do in the hardware side. 90% of that part of the job is protecting the batteries from themselves, from the environment, from the use case that we're putting them under. So what the gentleman from Nextera was saying is you can chase more revenue streams, but you're going to degrade that expensive asset quicker. So, well, first and foremost, that trade-off is being analyzed from day one. And what we are trying to do at Greensmith, and what we're pretty close to doing, is we're working on flexible warranties from the battery guys, so that we see a clear trade-off as we increase the amount of energy throughput that's going through that battery as you charge it and discharge it, how much more revenue you're going to get from the function that caused you to degrade it faster. Because that also cuts another way. And some of our customers, I don't know where you guys stand, they're not using the battery as hard as they predicted, but they're not really getting more time on their warranty. So they're kind of getting hurt on one way, but as soon as you overdo it on the energy throughput, then they're going to ding you the other way. So what we're trying to do as a company and as a plan is to just have a flexible warranty in which we understand the trade-offs of both underusing and overusing the batteries. And then those kind of analytical financial decisions are made right up front before we do anything and before we sign contracts, so the customer's well aware what to expect with any changes to their system. Thank you for the question.